Hey Exploration Nation, today I'm coming to you from the old Middle Georgia Motor Speedway. This particular half-mile track has an interesting history. There are several notable events that took place here since it was built in 1966. So let's start taking a look and see what we can see. I'm going to go down here and start at the start-finish line, but grandstands are still here. Now, on a map of this from something that I'll get into after a while, maps that were distributed had another set of grandstands on the other side of the track, but there's no sign that anything was ever there. There's a bank and then a steep drop off, so I don't see anywhere where another set of grandstands were. But the attendance here one time was like 75,000, so I don't know if you can get 75,000 up there or not. I have no idea. The map that I have shows an old track in another location up towards Atlanta, and I think that's where they got confused, because one of the road names that's supposed to be this way, just south of it, doesn't exist and doesn't appear to have ever existed. And when you look it up on Google Earth, it takes you to Timbuktu. So I think there's a little confusion on that here. And plus the track crossover over there, which I guess they're talking about the crossover for the pit crews to come in into the infield right here. It's showing in another location than where this one is. So a few things that I don't know here. Of course, here's the where the checkered flag resided. And when we get to the grandstands over here, hey, the ladder is still there. It looks pretty solid. That looks like it was made for climbing. And of course, here's the start-finish line. Speedway has been closed since, well, depending on who you talk to, 1984 or 1986. I think one account that I saw was the last race was here in 1984, and the track closed in 1986. It didn't close immediately afterwards. And it's a windy day. I apologize for that. I hope the wind noise is not too bad. It's a very nice day out here in September, especially for Middle Georgia. 75 degrees, so I'm not complaining. August was very hot, temperatures topping 100. And so we finally got into some fall weather down here. Highs during the days are running about 80, 82 degrees, something like that. Lows at night, back up in North Georgia, upper 50s. And that's right up my alley. Alrighty. Now, we are coming up on turn 1. Okay, we're coming up on the famous turn number 3, and I'll tell you why it's famous in a minute. That's just the backstretch right there. I didn't want to bore y'all with the walk down here. There's a slight bank even to the backstretch here, but that's turn 2 right back over there. So turn 3 right here, this is the start of the history behind this track. The track was built in '66, and it seems like that in 1967 there was somebody back in the woods hunting, and of course there were a lot more woods around the track then than there are now. There are houses all around the track now. The hunter was supposedly back there, and he smelled fumes and contacted the authorities. Now, it seems like that there is some debate, although small, that there was no hunter, that it may have been a disgruntled person. The person I was reading wasn't sure, and it was the only person that I saw that said that. Everybody else, the going story, even in news articles, said that this mysterious hunter back here contacted the authorities after smelling the fumes. Now, the still site, we're looking at it right there. And of course you may ask, how does that happen? The still was somewhere under turn number 3 right here, probably back this way, and you accessed it through a trap door in a dummy ticket booth somewhere, I guess back that way, because one of the highways here is that way, and US 41 is there, State 49 is there. And so it would only make sense, if you're going to put up a ticket booth to hide something, that it be near a road. You know, the main entrance is down there. Well, the parking was probably on the end in a big open area where a driving range is now, and spectators came in over here on the side. So it wouldn't make sense to have a ticket booth somewhere else and not be able to explain it. So probably out by the road somewhere, and it went down a ladder and went quite a ways through a tunnel, and the still itself was a big one. And I'd like to have seen this thing. 3,700 gallons. I mean, this thing was an absolute monster. And it produced, or was capable of producing, about 80 gallons of moonshine every day. So this caused the track to be shut down for a little bit. And of course the owner was arrested, and he claimed he knew nothing about it. Okay. He, as a matter of fact, is very adamant. He said he didn't know anything about it. And so I don't know about that one. But anyway, we'll just leave that right there. But he had purchased 24 pounds of yeast, which the prosecution at his trial produced the receipt for, and he said that that was for concessions, for making concessions for the racetrack. The prosecutor responded by saying, that's enough yeast to make enough bread to feed Atlanta for a week. Now, those are the kind of trials I'd like to attend. I'll bet this thing was funny. So the trial went on, and the owner, who was Lamar Brown Jr., was found not guilty by the jury. And that was that was something else, because federal law says if you got a moonshine still on your property, it's yours. So if any of you find one, either get rid of it or contact the authorities to come get it. Otherwise, you can get in trouble if it's just a lot of trouble. And I'm talking the federal penitentiary kind of trouble. It's a serious crime. So Mr. Brown skated on that. And now that was all the defense had. That's all his attorney had, was his word that he didn't know anything about it. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. That's amazing to me. So, anyway, that's incredible. You know, yeah, I didn't do it. Okay. Anyway, you know, this little road back here, this road is where the pit crews came in. And you can see the drag marks where they scraped coming in and out. The drag marks are still here. And they would go, of course, to the pit area over there. Now, that fake ticket booth thing, it's got to be over in there somewhere. You know, let's go look for that. I doubt seriously that it is there. Doubt very seriously that it's there. The federal agents that raided the still probably destroyed it. And they did destroy the still. And they left it. They didn't dynamite it because it would have damaged the track. And that would have been real expensive to replace, because all that, the cave that it was in, would have to be filled in and everything. And it was an amazing operation. I wish there were pictures of it. The guy had electric lights and electric ventilation system down there. Whoever it was, or gal. I've seen some people that seem to know who was running it, and it was a woman. I don't know. All that's anecdotal, so I have no idea. So far, I'm not seeing anything. And looks like we're coming up on a big old ravine over here. So far, no snakes. Yeah, that is a long way down. That's a big old ravine. Wouldn't surprise me if at one time it was a creek. Don't know if it's a drainage ditch that was dug out when the track was built. Could be. There is a drain out in the middle of the infield, so that might be what that is. Might be artificial. Okay, good night. The mosquitoes and gnats are unreal. Temperature down here gets about 50 degrees. Mosquitoes are out, literally 50 degrees, and they're out. And mosquitoes now seem to be worse now than they were in July. I guess they had sense enough to go in out of the heat. Okay, we're back out on turn 3. There's the road we came in on. Now, according to that map, the grandstands were right here, with that being to the left as you look towards the track. And I don't know. According to the map, the stands were smaller than what's over on the south side. Well, take out the trees here. Might have been. This have been kind of hinky here. One of the race car drivers lost it and ended up in there. If you were sitting here, you wouldn't even have time to say sayonara. So, but maybe so. There's a little more up there than I thought. And there might have been a barrier here at one time. But the wall stops right down there. Let's take a look back there. Because it would make sense that the other stands they were showing us directly across from the biggest stands. And here's a concrete wall. This won't take but just a minute. Alright, let's take a look. There's also a fence that goes up there. That would seem to indicate that this is where they were. Right here. Yeah, there's enough room. Absolutely. Y'all see that? So, and that high fence indicates that there was seating or something here to protect the fans. What was that? So, take out the trees. Here's where the grandstands were, the north stands. Yep. And at some point they were taken down. Okay, so that little mystery has been solved. We were right here. I should have known that where the concrete wall was would be where the stands were. I just didn't think there was that much ground behind it, but there is. So the map was accurate, except for the name of the road south of here. The name of that road on that map is not here. Okay, back to turn 3. The Moonshine Turn. So according to everything I've read, we're walking right over still right in this area somewhere. We'll have walked over it. I just completed turn 4 right back here, and before we go to the south grandstands, we did check out the pit area, and I almost forgot about another feature down here. This is actually 2 racetracks in one, and if I hadn't run across that little bit of information, I would never have guessed it. So right down here is the pit area this way. But there's also a 1/4 mile track down here that they put in later, sometime after the 1/2 mile track was built, and we're standing on it. This is it. And it went down, looped around, and came back around here And that is a quarter-mile track right there. Actually, we're not standing on it right here. This is the feeder for the pit area. And they used to race quarter mile here too. So I thought that was interesting. I don't know when the quarter mile track here was put in. It was just sometime after the main track was built in 1966. It was shut down due to the moonshine still in 67. But they raced the next day. It wasn't a NASCAR race. I don't know who raced, but they did have a race here the very next day. And the track was shut down. And then the following year, NASCAR started its season, which had been 1968, the very next year, and continued right on here. Now, NASCAR held a total of 9 Grand National races here, now known as the Cup Series, from 66 to 71. And we had some notable race car drivers here. Cale Yarborough raced here a time or two. I don't know exactly how many times, but he'd been here. Richard Petty won 4 races here, and he also broke the NASCAR half-mile speed record in the very first race here that this track had, or NASCAR race. I don't know if it was the first race or the first one that NASCAR held here, but in the very first race he broke a speed record for half-mile track, and that speed was 82.023 miles per hour. And Bobby Allison also raced here. He won 3 races here, and David Pearson and Bobby Isaac each won 1 here. So we had some very well known, for those of you that don't know, Richard Petty, Bobby Allison, and David Pearson, and probably Bobby Isaac. But I was never into NASCAR racing. I was into baseball. So I wasn't familiar, but the thing of it is, back in the day, even if you were not a race car fan, even if you did not keep up with it, you knew who Richard Petty was. You knew who Bobby Allison was, and you knew who Cale Yarborough was, and there were a number of others that you knew who they were because you heard about them all the time. So this is the pit area. Now, originally, this was in an X there, so there's sections of the road in line with here that went that way, and another that came this way and formed an X and went out there. Now, looks like it's covered over with mud. I don't think we can see it now. It's covered over. You can't really even tell that that was there, but it was on the map. That's how I knew it was there. Otherwise, it looks like it ends right here. But this was the pit area. Now, as far as the NASCAR races go, the last one was on November 7th, 1971. And Bobby Allison won that one. That was a 274-mile race. And after NASCAR stopped having races here, races continued to be here in the 70s and 80s. Until 1984. The last race was held in 84, and this was after the track had fallen into disrepair. And the article that I saw said that high weeds were growing up in it, kind of like right now. You know, we've seen those growing up out of the track itself. And so after that, in '84, there were no more races here. And then in 1986, the track closed. And I saw a lot of people that didn't have any idea why this track closed. And so I got to thinking back, and I can tell you what it was, is in '84, we were just recovering from a national economic disaster. In the late 70s, the economy took a nosedive. And it was interesting, to say the least. In the early 70s, gas prices doubled. The OPEC nations went way up on the price of oil, and gas prices at the pump doubled, and so wages did not keep up with it. And a lot of you can identify with that. We've had the same thing here the past couple of years. Same thing happened. And it happened again in the late 70s. Gas prices went up sharply again. Wages did not. That's what happened with that. The annual inflation rate was around 15%. And put that in perspective, that's last time I checked, our inflation rate was like 8%, something like that. It was not an easy time, and I think that's why the track closed in '84. The economy had somewhat recovered. We were still coming out of it, but '84 was not half bad. And I think the official end of the recession was actually before '84, but I think the damage here was done already. When costs like that go up, grocery costs go up, gas prices go up that much, people still have to eat, go to work, so on. They didn't have any money to spare to come to the races anymore. And so I think that's why this track closed, and it was a shame, but I really do think so. Let's go behind the wall here and come back out in the stands here. I can almost hear the cars coming down through here. And imagine seeing them going around this track. It was, when I'm in places like this, I always imagine what'll happen if it's an old house. I imagine what it must have been like for raising families there and so on, a place like this. Imagining what it was like to come to the races. And somebody right there seems to think that the track is still open. Burnout. All right. Okay, I'm up here in the Nosebleed section of the Grandstands, and here's the view from up here. A lot of people like to be down close to the action, but you know, honestly, here I'd rather have been up here. And you can see everything. Although those trees were not on the infield, and so I think that down at the bottom you'd have still been able to see everything, but I just kind of prefer it up here. Let's head back down and head for the tower down there. Coming around the end of the grandstands, here's a Coca-Cola advertisement up there, checkered flag, and Middle Georgia. Looks like Raceway, welcome race fans, but it looks like it was something else too. I can't quite make that out up there. Up here at the top. Zoom in on that and see if we can make that out. And I don't know what that is. The flags are right there. So I think they would have been here first. That looks like it might have been Peach State. We're in Peach County. Peach State Fairgrounds and Raceway. That's what that looks like. So I don't know when that went in at all. And this end painted over something. IEM something. And I don't know what that is. So there is something under all this. Now, this could have been part of a commercial that was filmed here in 2011 for Dodge Durangos. And I read that even though the owner had just freshly painted some walls somewhere, nothing said exactly where, they came in and did it again and aged it to make it look old. And they had a sign in here that said Brixton Motor Raceway. And so I don't know if this was part of that. I don't know. But it looks like 2 or 3 things have been painted on there. Okay, I could not leave here without putting into action at least one stellar idea. Okay? Although I've had a few already today. You know, the high grass, hot days, all that kind of good stuff. But had to have at least one stellar idea before I go any further. I'm climbing that. I'll go up to the top of that. Yeah, stellar idea. That's an awesome, smart thing to do. That's why I'm doing it. So, just sit back, get your popcorn, watch, be entertained. Alright, we'll see if I can make it up here. I am tired. Yeah, I know, I'm making excuses. Figured too tired to go up a ladder that's straight up. Those are not easy to do, but if I had done that when I first got here, I stood a better chance of making it. So anyway, I tried. Well, we are headed back towards the back of the, not really the back, turn 4. That's where we're headed. Because I want to tell you about what this is really known for here. Now, this next event did not actually take place in the track. It took place adjacent to it. And it is known as Georgia's Woodstock. It was the second annual Atlanta International Pop Festival. And it's pop, not pot. Although there's there's plenty of that going around too. So, yeah. Anyway, we'll leave that alone. But it was held July 3rd through the 5th, 1970. And it was held in a soybean field over there on the other side of those trees. Show you that. What made it notable was who played here. People like Jimi Hendrix. And on the midnight, on the night of July the 4th, he played his version of the Star Spangled Banner, and it was unique. Jimi Hendrix was an amazing musician. B.B. King was here, the Allman Brothers. Now, even though the records say that all of the bands were over there, and I'm not sure about all this, but across the highway from the main entrance, there was apparently a free stage set up. And that's where the Allmans were playing, according to some people commenting. And so, not sure if they played over there to start with and then came over here. I don't know. I don't know how that worked. Over across the highway was camping in a pecan grove, and at least part of the pecan grove is still there. And there was an estimated 300 to 400,000 people that came to this. It was a big sea of people. The interstate was backed up for miles in both directions. And before these folks showed up, then Governor Lester Maddox, with the help of the state legislature, tried to stop it. And apparently they had some level of success, because this International Film Festival, listen to me, this International Pop Festival here was the last one they did. This turned out to be Jimi Hendrix's largest American audience. This was one of his last concerts, I guess, was right here at Georgia's Woodstock, or otherwise known as the Woodstock of the South. The Georgia Historical Commission put a historical marker out by the highway commemorating this event. The state of the racetrack now, you may be wondering. It's changed hands a couple of times, and a man named Leroy Davidson bought it and tried to reopen it for racing here in the 1990s. But there were zoning issues, and one of the issues was that there are neighborhoods right up against the property, and they didn't want the noise from racing, so that never did get off the ground. It was purchased again prior to the 2008 economic crash, and when the economy crashed, then that shot all the ideas here, because it was sold for housing development or something, something to be built here, and that didn't happen. And so I looked it up, and it's not currently for sale. It was for sale again a few years ago, but it's not currently listed for sale. And but it is zoned for general commercial, so they could put an industrial park here, could put a housing development, something like that in here. But it is currently not on the market. So just have to wait and see. I figured I would get down here while it was here and show it to you. And so I really appreciate you watching. Thank you so much for coming along. I really do appreciate it. Do the usual. If you haven't already, like, share, subscribe. And I will see you in the next video.